souls. But when you look inside, do you see your own? Let's flow now with all those pretty little things you buy indoor, rose for hours and size decorating. Wake up to the sound of silence, be still and know that I am here. Take my hand, I will hold you, I will wait for your tears. My grace is sufficient for you, my love will wash away the past. Lay your burdens on your shoulders, no trials will pass. Be still and know. Walking down the road, all alone, turned away from home. Why do you, dear, insist on trying to do things on your own when you're crying and screaming that it's all gone away, that you've been put to shame? When will you deal? Open your eyes, the words I have, I will be here with you, with you, with you, with you. Wake up to the sound of silence, be still and know that I am here. Take my hand, I will hold you, I will wait all your tears. My grace is sufficient for you, my love will wash away the past. Lay your burdens on your shoulders, no trials will pass.
Hey, Luke. Hi.
Hi, Jarek.
I'm here with you on the 40th year of your company. How old are you?
Me personally, I'm 51, but when I was 11, the company was incorporated by Neville Fay. And so this year we're 40 years old, or 40 years young. So we're pretty much almost adult now.
It's a great party last night. Thank you for inviting me. So can you tell us what we experienced last night? What was there about?
Oh, it was a fabulous party. And Jarek, thank you so much for coming and bringing your daughter to have fun, because we had a bouncy castle for all the children and for you, of course, Jarek, and I'm glad you made good use of it. We planted 9 trees at Yeo Valley Farm. We planted black poplar, native black poplar, which is an important species in England. We also planted field maple and oak and rowan as well in the field margins around there. And I put them on Treezilla, so you can go on Treezilla and you can see the trees. All of our team came and all of our team got involved in planting. Claire and Simon, who have expertise in soil, specified how the trees would be, how the soil and roots would be treated, and someone brought compost tea as well. Andy and our team chose the species with Yeo Valley so that they were appropriate to the location. And what we did was we brought everyone from our team and their families, so because people's families really enable them to be part of everything that we do. And so we were able to properly celebrate everybody from Treework and also from our past within the party. It's just really moving.
How big is your company? How many people work in Treework?
There's 18 of us at the moment. It's always in flux. People are coming, people are going, and we have 7 consultants plus Neville and I working, and we've been home working since 2010, and so our people are spread right across the UK, and it's something that's worked really well for us. I'm really proud that our consultants are considered some of the best in the UK and really do some amazing work.
In which area of consultancy do you orientate the company now?
Well, it's based on the demand that we have, it's around about 43% of our demand is to support design, planning, construction. 37% around is to support landowners who are managing their trees for public safety. And then On top of that, we have veteran tree surveys and management and support that we do. We do static load testing. We have some expert witnesses who are qualified as expert witnesses in our team who provide those services. Then we do soils and supporting, particularly in historic landscapes where trees are suffering, coming up with approaches to support those trees to thrive again.
If we want to study your company, where can we find you on the internet?
So Treeworks with an S, treeworks.co.uk, and our website is there, but you can also follow us on LinkedIn and follow me on LinkedIn, and I'm constantly having good ideas on there.
Neville, you are one
Jarek.
of the legends of the industry. You were the first guy who visited the Czech Republic and explained us something about veteran trees.
All those many years ago.
How do you recall?
How do I recall? I recall it was a lovely experience. We first met at the Arboricultural conference. 22 years.
Yeah,
Well, okay. I'm not very good on the numbers. I leave that to you. So we met at the Arboricultural Association conference, and then at Kiel. Yeah. Erk was there too, and then you invited me to come to Czech Republic, and I met with what I thought were very powerfully committed arborists who were learning in a new way after the communist era and looking keen to professionalize. And some had been to the States. I thought some people had very good English, like you, Jarek. And there was a mixed response. So I was talking about the importance of decay in the life cycle of the tree, and our experience from particularly, the Great Britain, British soil, British lands, of the great number of ancient trees, and the ancient tree forum was new then, and I was the chairman of that in his first days, and we were still gaining confidence in our knowledge and learning. Somebody was translating, and I realized that as I was describing the innovation in pruning and management of trees from the viewpoint of the ancient tree, and then translating that to the mature tree, the growing tree, the maturing tree, and the mature tree, that the translation wasn't being honored, even though I couldn't understand the Czech language. And I asked what was really being said, and I was being told it wasn't Shigo. So I appreciated this. And then we had some interesting presentations, one from Martin Nemetz. And he was showing how, with pride, he was standing beside a tree with bricks inside it and concrete. I whispered to you, I think, Jarek, that it was vandalism, but I think I said it too loud and there were reactions. But anyway, then we went to look at trees that had been managed, and there's a great history in the Czech Republic that had gone through the communist period to the new period of conservation of trees, innovation, protection of cavities with using lead roofs and wooden roofs, cabling, and all sorts of things, which I now call, it's arboricultural archaeology. It's not a bad thing, it's a great thing that everyone's been trying and committed to do it because they value the importance of trees. So that was my first experience, and it was made beautiful experience thanks to Mr. Kalajic.
And how do you remember the development of Asian Tree Forum itself?
Well, I think I might have said if we learn from our mistakes and we admit to our mistakes, it's a great learning and we can learn together. My first mistake was having the privilege to work on a community of ancient oak trees not very far from Bristol in a landscape that was recorded in what we call the Doomsday Book from 1086. But these trees were probably 600 years old, and they were 220, and we had thinned the competition, and then many of them died, as we recorded in the next 4 or 5 years. And we learned from that, that's me in my practice at the time, we learned from that we have to go very slowly with the older tree. Whether it's bringing light to it, or whether it's reducing the weight or load, and so on. And it was in that cauldron of experience that people came to visit the site and criticize it. And then we learnt together and formed the Ancient Tree Forum in a more learning way, on a wider basis. And the Ancient Tree Forum has been then it was new. Everything was new. And because Shigo had a great man with great ideas and a wonderful way of looking at trees, he had created, if you like, the practical basis, or the basis for practice based on scientific observation. Not necessarily scientific evidence, but observation. And that was what was used for the conventional period. So the Ancient Tree Forum was then introducing new ideas, which were to do with what I would call slow arboriculture, and the working with the hormone system of the tree, the way different units in an ancient tree, post-mature tree, where the different units have different levels of independence. And so we can't have this global idea of do one thing or whatever. And it's a long-term process. And then, of course, the biggest thing is the soil and the rooting system. And that's, ever since then, the last 20 years, is the big area that my practice have been working with in both sides. That's the pruning, management, understanding. And also I had produced with colleague Nigel de Burke the specialist survey method, which was the first time that arboriculture could then categorise and look at the tree as habitat and categorise all those different types of habitat and work with that as the tree as an ecosystem. So this is the beginning of this thinking, which is now almost mainstream. We were running conferences and seminars. Yarrick, you came with people from different languages that we aren't aware of, different cultures of knowledge, and different critical areas of practice, including climate change, risk. We were changing this landscape and the debate, the fungal processes, the endophytes, the below ground communities, we had a lot of different themes that we were working with, and then in the end, really we were working with that trees are in crisis. And so if trees are in crisis in terms of their health and disease condition, quite often we see a tree that's in good condition next to a tree, same species in bad condition. And so we began to think, well, this is something to study. And maybe there are stress factors here. Maybe this single cause is not the issue. It's what's the constellation of causes that come together, syndromic, that create the conditions for stress that we're then dealing with in the crown, because we're always looking up and seeing the problem. And so we're seeing the trees as being, if you like, the canary in the mine of, we call it that, I don't know if you do as well, that they ring the bell of the danger to the ecosystem to tell us we're doing something wrong. So we've had periods of extensive pollution. That's not just what we would call precipitation, aerial pollution from factories and so on, but from agriculture. So what's uphill goes downhill, upstream goes downstream. So all the agriculture, the NPK, the fertilizer, herbicides and so on, move in the hydrological system of the soil. And also, of course, we don't really understand the impacts of porosity, soil porosity and compaction. So we were going to have another conference that the soils are in crisis. We'd done one on trees in crisis, that our soils are in crisis. And this is a bigger story and a more urgent one that's global. The FAO, United Nations FAO, say that between 30 and 60% of soils are degraded globally, and this is the message all the time we're coming to. And in some cases we hear, in some areas, that we have a limited number of harvests left if we carry on with the practice we're doing. Limited number of harvests. So we started in the place you visited yesterday, in that we had a seminar with government, MP, members of parliament, environment agencies, legal people involved in land use, very a tree person, with Ellen, who I was working with on the conferences. And this was to see, are soils in crisis? Is there a crisis that needs to be dealt with? And the outcome of that meeting was there was a mandate to actually challenge in politics, agriculture and so on. There's a change needed. It happened to coincide with our time of coming out of the European Union. I wasn't in favour of it, and people I know weren't in favour of it, but it meant that thinking was changing within agricultural politics, forestry politics less so, but particularly in agriculture. And we started working with government, having big meetings in government, with convening all the NGOs and all the agencies and all the committed environmental groups in one place to give quick speeches about what they thought was the problem, what needed to be done. And so we decided to create, we had a mandate to create a common platform, a neutral platform where everybody could contribute with authority to bring the government to look at things differently. And in the new processes, in the post-EU mandate, if you like, here, the agriculture has looked at funding agricultural processes on soil health and what can, what's called public money is given for public goods, not for land ownership. That's so far. There's a big story to tell you about that, but that's another story maybe.
You started the Treework Environmental Practice company 4 years ago.
Yes.
Where do you expect in next 4 years Arboriculture will be?
Oh, I think arboriculture, forestry, agriculture. We have something now in agriculture called regenerative agriculture. I think we have been practicing in tree work what we call conservation arboriculture. I've only recently defined what I think this is, though I've been using the term for a long time. I think we'll be moving in the next phase to regenerative agriculture, because we cannot conserve something which is not working. It's good, we're conserving trees as much as we can, and every tree that's of value needs to be conserved. But we will be working towards something which is an appreciation, a global appreciation, that we're part of something much, much bigger. We can't ignore that people are dying defending the rainforest. That's their lands. They don't understand ownership of land. We don't even know what we are causing by the supply chain to produce our IT implements, equipment. We don't call the producers of chainsaws to account for the audit process of what they are doing, their equipment is being used for, and is it in our name, and have we questioned this? We live in a global world now. Before, the global world has just been to do with global economy, really, the comfort of those who can travel, to travel anywhere, freedom to travel. We know that's all a myth for a lot of people. So I think the future is looking at land equity, ecosystem equity. Everything we plant here is changing the atmosphere for the world as a whole. Everything people plant in Africa is changing the atmosphere for us. And I think the next generation, I cannot speak for them. I think they'll be amazing and wonderful, like our generation has been and the one before that has been. But they will be dealing with things in a very new way. I can't speak for their 40 years, you know. Yeah.
Okay, now, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome. Yeah.